May I please have your attention, please?
2022, take it back to '01. Back when yelling "F" was shocking and fun. Back when Musketeers exploded onto the scene. Britney and Justin were in sync, know what I mean? Steven Tyler screamed he didn't want to miss a thing. Back when Carson Daly dominated the screen. Back a couple decades before I felt old. Before Janet Jackson had a whole nipple exposed. Whoa. Hold up, whoa, Nelly. Dr. Dre is scheduled to be featured on my telly. This about to be the best, there's nothing you can tell me. A heavy dose of nostalgia, no better way to sell me.
Just then, a panic falls.
I think I need to get my friends Frank and Jen and Cole.
Oh, here we are. Here we are. Good morning, everyone. That's Jen over there. I'm Frank. We were trying to do something different here this morning because sometimes I feel like on the podcast audio lately, we've been like, and we're on the channel and we're streaming and there's like a long introduction that we don't need. So we want to do the long introduction here before we start the podcast proper.
There you go.
Is that what I wanted to say?
I think so.
So thanks for joining us here on our YouTube channel. We are recording the Theme Park Thursday podcast episode for tomorrow,
Yes.
January 18th. What
Yep.
day is it tomorrow? We don't know.
I
Is
definitely
it,
don't know
is
anymore.
it 2025 yet? Who can say? But Jen is back, so that's the big deal here. And then we have a topic or a subject that we'll get into. But for now, we are going to do your little Theme Park Thursday live intro so that Jen knows where to start the editing process. Here we go.
It's Theme Park Thursday Live with Dillos Diz. Featuring Frank. And Jen.
This is Theme Park Thursday with Dillos Diz. She is Jen.
Hello.
And I am Frank. And for the next 45 to 60 minutes or so, we have a topic or a subject. It's almost going to be old school today, like almost like the Improviser's Guide podcast version of Theme Park Thursday early days. We have a topic or a subject that we'll get into in a bit and riff on that for a while. That's how it feels like to me anyway. Am I a little crazy in thinking that? I feel like we haven't had like a topic or a subject that we would like talk about and pontificate.
Yeah, that's true. It's been a little bit, but it makes me nervous initially that you're not dilloing expectations. You're like setting the expectations like this is like the old days. And then it makes me nervous. And then, and this is part of our issue. So
good morning to everyone in our chat. I'm just gonna say it now. We did a little intro here on our YouTube channel, kind of saying, "Hey, we're recording this episode," but because I didn't want to say all the things I usually say, but now I'm saying them anyway, and really proved futile. Again, we are in over 1,000 subscribers, but we're in watch time mode. So we're trying to counterbalance the things here. We had a late start this morning. Generally, these are the kind of things we would do over at DillosDizResort.com. That's our Patreon with memberships beginning as low as $1 per month. In case you're wondering why Lewis is reacting so strongly to the change in our chat this morning. That is what's happening here. And Jen informed me late last evening that like, hey, how much time do you have to record the podcast? And I said, well, I gave you the time, and then I have about a minute and a half to record the podcast. So I'm like in half work close here as we record.
Yeah, they decided yesterday. Well, what is today? I don't know what day it is. Especially like you go to holidays and then you're sick, and then what is time? So Monday it snowed, right? And everyone's like, oh, will there be a delay? Is there going to be a snow day? Nothing yesterday. Last night we get the call, 2-hour delay for today due to icy roads and giving the county some time to make them drivable. And we're like, Oh, okay. What? Okay. So therefore the pivot of this morning, but these 2-hour delays, I'd rather just have a snow day. It screws me up. I don't know what time the kids go to school an hour apart. So I'm like 2 hours here and then another hour. And then I gotta to figure it all out. It's very confusing.
Yeah, so it's a holiday week, so we don't know what day it is or what time it is, really,
Yeah.
with this 11:15 a.m. start time on Theme Park Thursday Eve that we're recording. See, these are the things I always say at the beginning of the podcast when we're doing them on the live streams, like
Yes.
for at DillosDisResort.com. I will say, "Hey, it's a Tuesday night for the Theme Park Thursday," and I'm not gonna lie, I like want to kick myself for saying it. I'm like, no, just record it like you're recording the podcast. But here I am saying it again.
Doing it all. I'm very sad because last week, I was taken ill on the
Yes.
day we were supposed to record with a
Mhm.
double flu strep situation. It was great.
Fun.
It was so fun. And missed out on hanging out with Dave. But I was able to watch that back because I even had plans and I'll just go into the chat at least. At least I'll be there. No, I was asleep by 5 o'clock. So what do I know? So I was rewatching it. Always love Dave's POV on things and especially all things social media. So I had, texted him being like, sorry, missed you. But hopefully we can do that again soon because that was a fun little episode there.
Yeah, I think the original topic or subject that we were going to do with Dave is what we're going to carry over to this week, which I'm sure we will then address with Dave at a later time because he wants to get together sooner rather than later. But that live stream is on the YouTube channel. That episode, the audio is in the podcast feed, so you can check all of that out. No announcement on the meetup today as well.
There it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's also a 2-hour delay in the
in
meetup
the announcement. Still, no. You said on the Peloton, if you missed Frank's first Peloton ride yesterday, go back and check that out on the live stream. He's going to do more of those. And he teased there might be a date drop today for the
did?
meetup this year.
I was very out of breath. I don't know. Let me say this because this is what happened, right? If you don't know, at 1,000 subs, I said if we got that by the end of the year, I would do live streaming Peloton rides throughout 2024. I didn't say how many or how often. I just said throughout 2024. So we did the first one yesterday, kind of a test run.
Still those expectations.
And that's right. And what, I have no expectations about how many views any of these things get. All I know is ever since we hit 1,000 subs, there's many, many people who I don't know out there who wants to tell us how terrible our SEO is.
Yeah.
So
every day, 10 times
every
a
day. Like morning, afternoon, night, 3 different messages in the Instas, in the Facebooks, everywhere. Your SEO, your thumbnail looks great. And some people are like, your thumbnail looks terrible. And some people will say, your content is great. And some people will say, your content is weak. And like,
You have no heading. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. That's a title right there.
It's very exhausting. This is why we just stuck to the podcast for so long. So long story short is I have no expectations of how many people I expect to watch my Peloton rides. And it's like, it has like 25 views or something. I'm like, I appreciate you watching an old man try to get on a bicycle. I appreciate that. But here we are.
Nate is designing a new t-shirt, came for the meetup announcement, stayed for the Peloton talk. So I think there needs to be a t-shirt for that for sure.
Yeah, I had a good idea for the Peloton ride a merch situation. But anyway, that is also in our YouTube channel. As I said, we're trying to beef up some of the content here on the YouTube channel for at least this month, just to see what we actually need to do before returning to normal. These chat episodes, like I said, are normally at DillosDisResort.com. So here we go with the topic or subject.
Oh, wait, before we start the topic or subject, can I tell a
Yes.
quick story? We have to we haven't tangented enough. I know we're limited on time, but we have to tangent a little bit because you're talking so much about the YouTube.
Mhm.
I did put this out there on the Twitter, but I felt the need to say the story here.
Mhm.
First of all, an announcement that isn't the meetup is that the 6-year-old will now be referred to as 7-year-old B for
That's
the
true.
next month or so.
Yes, correct.
So she will be 7-year-old B. We owe her a Disney trip because that's what she wanted in lieu of a party this year. So I have to figure that out. So we keep talking about one day at the studio so she can go on Star Tour 7 times. So we're figuring that out.
Mhm.
But she when they had Monday off here. It was a 3-day weekend here. So this week is really weird
Mhm.
for us in the Northeast. They had a 3-day weekend, and on Monday we jokingly was like, "Hey guys, you want to watch the Dillo Do's?" And they were like, "What is that?" So we start bringing it up on TV. Now they know, like, I do the podcast. They will sometimes refer to it as TikTok and not the podcast. They just say things,
Mhm.
and so we're bringing it up on the TV. We're like going to the Dillos Diz YouTube channel on the TV, and 7-year-old B is like, "What? You're on YouTube? You have a YouTube channel? Are you guys famous? What? Mommy, Uncle Frankie, what?" Like, just shocked by all of this. And it was hilarious to watch their commentary of the Dillo Do's. And I'm
Oh,
like,
mhm.
oh, this should probably have been something that I recorded.
Right.
And they're like, "What else do you have on your channel? What other funny things? We want to laugh." I'm like, well, now there's pressure. You want to laugh? I don't
Mhm.
know that I have, have
Yeah.
to bring it for that.
Yeah, we're never trying to be funny. It's like my
Yeah, I
biggest
did.
it's
That's
like
just,
my
yeah.
biggest
I did
fear.
bring up a blooper reel from the MMC thing. So I'm like,
Uh-huh.
here's a blooper reel. Is that good? But yeah, so that was pretty funny. But I felt, wow, we're getting some clout with the next generation that
That's
we're on
right.
YouTube. We're very big deals.
I've been looking at the demographics lately. I'm just kind of surprised at the age ranges of people watching our content lately. So, to say, I will add a secondary tangent before we go
Sure.
on
Yeah.
to the main topic or subject that is theme park related. So, 7-year-old A, well, she hits Friday night, and it's like the school, like everything releases,
Yes.
and
Yes.
overtired is like at the extreme. So she said something and about chicken. I don't know I think she meant to say chicken fingers, something like that. And I thought she said chicken flakes. So I started riffing on like the idea of chicken flakes. It's like a
Uh-huh.
cereal, which
Uh-huh.
she thought in her overtired state was the most hilarious thing she's ever
Yeah.
heard. So she's like then going back and forth with me with like the announcer voice, like totally improvising, going back and forth with like chicken flakes, now part of your delicious breakfast, like all of that. And so, and I just keep going, and Mrs. Dillo is like, "Will you stop?" And I'm like, "No, I will not stop." And so I am in Saturday morning cartoon commercial mode,
Uh-huh.
from the 1980s.
Yeah.
She then does her own version. She's like, chicken flakes now with Bob. And she's going through and she's like the video and subscribe at the end of
Uh-huh.
it. I'm like, oh,
Uh-huh.
and
Always. Yeah.
skip ad, oh, like, oh, no,
Yes,
different.
every time they make a video, because the 3 of them will get together sometimes and
Oh,
just steal one of our phones, and
right.
then there's just 15 minutes of video of them on the phone. I don't know that I've ever gone back and really watched them all, but they often end with "like and subscribe," and they just like, "Okay, okay, guys."
Mrs. Dillow's nightmare right there is
Yeah,
the YouTube
yeah,
channel for the kids.
yeah.
Because I told the story at work, and they're like, "Well, you probably should get a YouTube channel." So I'm like, "No, not yet. We can't do
No
that."
judgment to those that do it.
No.
I
Yes.
like to tell them, different rules in different houses. We're just not gonna do that at this point. Maybe when you're
Yeah.
older,
No, we
you
want
can
them to take
revisit
over
that.
this. Half of the reason why
Right.
we're doing this is for them to take over. That was the plan. That was always the plan.
Right. But right now, no.
So here's the topic or subject that I want to get to. Hopefully we have about
Yes.
40 to 45 minutes to talk about this.
Do you?
Do we? Do we? Yeah. I mean, I'll run out the door right after, but here we are. So we were going to talk about this with Dave because he was like, "What do you guys want to talk about on the live stream?" And we're like, "Oh, we need a topic
Oh.
or a subject." And so finally I came up with one. So, it's the 21st century. And if you are counting the centuries starting in the year of 2000, because some
Mhm.
people, they're like, it doesn't start until 2001. Like, I don't have time to figure that out.
Uh-huh.
So if you start in the year 2000, then this is the 25th year of this century. What?
Oh.
Oh, 25th year of this century. So we're a quarter of a way through this century, everyone. Remember when you were like, oh, look, it's almost the end of the 20th century. And now it is it is a quarter of a way through the 21st century. So I thought a good topic or subject would be to discuss, in terms of the theme parks, what has been the greatest structure on theme park property. So I'm not just saying attractions, it can be anything. The greatest structure that has been built on a theme park property in the 21st century. The idea being that, not just attractions, resorts, it could be restaurants, whatever. Does that mean exterior only or interior, exterior? There are no rules beyond my premise. It is a topic or a subject that we then improvise all over. So that is my idea. It is my premise. I have not put too much thought into it. I have no research behind it. I'm gonna have to look things up. I'm gonna have to Google. I'll be honest. I looked two things up prior to this recording that I probably will get to, because I confuse my parks overseas sometimes. So and now that I say that, I don't remember which one is which already. So when we get to those things, we can discuss. But we're not limiting this to Disney. We can talk about Universal. We could talk about Dollywood. I don't know what they know Lewis is here. We can talk about any type of park that you have been to in this century. Theme park, amusement park. I'll throw that in there. Why not? Lewis, you are correct. The Wizarding World has been built in this century. Well, I see. Oh, theme park Rob with a great question. No, Tron would be considered the attraction this century. Epcot would be considered the last century, but Guardians of the Guardians ride, I don't think we'll ever call that building, that blue pretend it's not their building. I don't think we'll have that in the conversation today.
No. But they did start construction last century, it feels like. So yeah, no, you're not wrong.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
Lewis is here to say Dollywood is not in the running for that sort of reward. Just a side note tangent, because I see Lexi in the chat. Someone came up to me, was talking to that works with me, and was talking about Splish Splash, the water park. They're like, oh, I think my niece is ready to go to Splish Splash. And I was like, oh, man, I still don't know if I've been. I don't think I've been to Splish Splash.
I know.
I don't
think I am. There's almost is there some sort of, not in the mid 2000s, but perhaps in another point in my brain that's just hidden a little bit. Is there another place for Splish Splash that maybe I was there and I don't even realize? I don't think so, but I don't know. I really don't know.
And I was stalling with that tangent, hoping that some folks would drop what their structures were in the chat.
Yeah.
I know we did this a little bit in the one channel Discord associated with Dillo'sDisResorts.com, but for me, the one that jumps out immediately, and I'm not saying this is my number one. I don't know if I have a number one, but the Millennium Falcon, no matter how many times as a structure in a theme park that I see it, is a magnificent piece of artistry. And, I am in awe every time, no matter what angle I'm sitting at. If I'm in the queue of the regular queue, behind it, walking past it, looking at it from the backside of the Millennium Falcon, I am, in awe of that structure.
Yeah.
So I want to throw that out there. And some people, if you want to say, I mean, that's not really a structure. You're not going inside that part of the structure per se. You're going into building to go into. Fine, but
that's not how it feels when we're in it.
I'm just saying that looking at it as a structure, as a piece of art, that would be the first thing that jumps out to me.
Right. This is going to be very difficult for me, obviously. And I also feel like, although we knew we were talking about this, you think we would have done prep. So, Lewis, to your point earlier, having a formula here, we're not that crazy. We have a topic. Did I do any research on the topic to maybe come up with a list for myself to reference? No, I didn't do that.
No, this is what I said at the beginning. This is the improviser's guide variation, where we're not creating lists, no research, no nothing. It is, here's the topic. Like I asked the audience, what's the topic or subject you would like to hear Jen and I talk about and someone yelled out, theme park structures in the 20th century. Okay, here we are.
Would I have a question regarding the parameters here? Is our lands like a full land considered? Are you talking specific like Millennium Falcon is the
No,
structure
I mean,
itself?
listen, I'm not gonna am I gonna buzz anybody for their
Right.
answers? No. Am I gonna say, "No, you're wrong, that doesn't count"? I see, people talk about both the Falcon and Galaxy's Edge as a whole in the chat, and, to each their own. If you want to, uh, see it as a entire piece,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to get in the way of that.
Right. Ryan's mentioning the hanging trees in Pandora,
Mhm.
which Pandora is very cool.
Yeah.
And that's a shout out to the animal kingdom right
Hey
there.
there.
The thing that came to mind initially was Toy Story Land as a whole.
Mhm,
And although small as a whole land, I feel like the details involved
mhm,
are very cool. Like if you just sit at Woody's lunchbox and
mhm,
just like kind of look around and you're looking at like the string of lights and you're looking at all the little details they have in that land, that's very cool. I know that's not a specific structure per se, but it's such a small land that I kind of feel like it's just this one little thing. But I do feel like the details of that are pretty amazing and probably don't get as much love because it came too close to Galaxy's Edge. It came too close to Wizarding World, I mean not
mhm.
that close to that, but still. Um, I have not been in Wizarding World, but from what I see, it looks awesome. And
Mhm.
I get it. I get it. Um, but yeah, the Toy Story Land is like the first thing that popped in my head.
Right. I mean, and I think that's thematically, like, I think you have like an argument for that, right?
Mhm.
Especially, and Frank was not making any rules and was going to buzz anybody beforehand. Where Toy Story Mania, believe it or not, it feels like it was 100 years ago, but that
Uh-huh.
is within the 21st century. At first, I was like, well, do I have to make a rule? And I'm like, oh no, Toy Story Mania was in the mid 2000s, so
Yeah.
so there is that. They changed that over to from the sound stages in the mid 2000s there. So definitely
Side
altogether.
tangent on
Yeah.
that. Have you seen the TikTok and the reel and the things that go around? I don't know if I sent it to you. I have had it sent to me by numerous people that is as you're standing in the queue line and going through the ride that they point out sections of like the Mickey Mouse Club and like, oh, this is
Oh.
where Brittany and Justin danced and all
Mhm.
that. And I'm like, that's another one similar to what we do with Great Movie Ride versus Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is like, where am I when I'm in here? Where am I actually? Like, what
Yeah.
was this beforehand?
I love. I mean, I probably do this every other month or so. That I will
Mhm.
pull up a map of the Great Movie Ride rooms versus the Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway
Mhm.
rooms, and just like look at it.
Yeah.
um, another side tangent there, but I did talk about this in our one channel Discord as well. That I was talking to. Oh, I was wearing the Great Movie Ride closing T-shirt
Mhm.
that I have. And the 7-year-old A was like, what is the Great Movie Ride? And so I started explaining it, and she was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. What movies? And she was like, oh, The Wizard of Oz. Oh, Mary Poppins. And I was like, oh yeah, and you know where that ride was? She was like, where? And I was like, where Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is. And she's like, that sounds so much better than Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And I was like, and it really comes down to whatever that thing that is like crushing mechanics at the end of
Uh-huh.
Runaway
Yes.
Railway.
Uh-huh.
That's all it's based on. She doesn't
Yeah.
like that one part, so the whole
It's so
ride
funny.
is disqualified.
Yeah. It only takes one
And
thing.
yeah, and I said, you used to, there would be like a guide that would take you through, and then the car would be taken over. And she was
Mhm.
like, "What do you mean?" And I was like we would get robbed. And she was like, "You get robbed?" And I was like, "All right, I'm not gonna be able to explain this. Let me show." And right, I sit there and go, I don't think she'd be as excited by the gangster scene. So let me, much to my instinct of like what I think, what I want. No, let me show you the Western scene because that's a
Uh-huh.
little more exciting with the fire. And she was like, is that real fire on the ride? And I was like, oh yeah, that the whole building went. And she was like, and I was like, you felt the heat? And she was like, why is this not a ride anymore? And I was like,
Mhm.
I know. It's why we do the podcast. It's because this ride closed.
It's the whole reason for the podcast. That's so funny. That's really funny though. I think about the alien scene often and how scared I was of it.
Mhm.
It's a wonder my kids are nervous about so many things. But then I think about that, like if we were on that, I just heard 7-year-old B in my head as you're like, yeah, and then you get robbed and then someone takes over the car and I could hear her in my ear. Is this real? Is this pretend? Are they pretending? Is this real? What is it like trying the whole time to
Yeah.
distinguish like what's happening right now? Is this a real thing versus a fake thing? I don't understand.
And I mentioned Alien to her, and then she was like, I don't, what do you? And I tried to describe it, and she's like, show me a picture. And so
Hmm.
I showed the picture. She's like, that's disgusting. That's not scary. And I was like, well, it's loud and it's weird and it's it's a
Yeah.
whole thing. And then for the next 60 minutes or so, I was going, this is Alien. You are with Sigourney Weaver. Terrifying creatures await. Warning: remain in your vehicles.
Proceed with
Good
caution.
times. Mm.
Nate is asking, does infrastructure count? The Skyliner is impressive.
I saw Lexi mention that in addition to Nate here earlier. Jeez, I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum,
True.
but I
Everyone can like what they like.
yeah. I'm fine if you want to feel that way. The Skyliner can be part of it for sure.
Is
Fine.
it impressive? I don't know. Here's the debate. Go. Is that wrong? It's listen. The Skyliner is cool. It's a great form of transportation. I love that there's an additional form of transportation for the Disney crowds. I love that it seems pretty seamless in the process, except when it's sunny and apparently there's lightning 20 miles away, so they shut it down for the day anytime I try it.
Right.
That's fine. And I get it, and I also don't wanna be up there if there's lightning, that's fine. Although, Lewis, last week in the Skyliner saying how it's windy, and he's in there and it's dark out and it's windy, nightmare. It's my nightmare. I don't want to be in that situation.
Right.
However, so there are pros to it. I would say not impressive only because it's not a unique thing. Like, first of all, we kind of had it in Magic Kingdom a million years ago, right? I mean, we basically had the Magic Kingdom Skyliner,
Mhm, mhm,
for
mhm. Skyway to Fantasyland. Skyway
forever ago.
to forever.
Yes.
Yep.
You also have these similar Skyliner things all over the world. They're
Mhm,
everywhere.
mhm.
So I'm not saying there aren't pros to it. Do I prefer the monorail? Yes. That's just because I'm old school and that's what I know and that's what I love. Is it okay up there? Yes, just don't make it sway, don't make it too hot and I'm fine. But I guess because it's not something new, it's not like, "Whoa, look at this" to me. But I understand why people love it and I get it.
Mhm.
I get it. And the
I mean,
views.
much like 7-year-old A with the one part of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway
Uh-huh.
with the chomping bit. My only beef with the structure of the Skyliner is I don't like how it looks next to the boardwalk.
Uh-huh.
And that's really what it boils down to. Like, I wish it could get to Epcot a different way. Can it not?
Mhm.
I almost wish it would have went down all the way down Buena Vista Drive there, and made that left where you go to Port Orleans and all over there, and then go to Epcot that way and go
Mhm.
around to the front rather
Mhm.
than cutting over the boardwalk. That is my real the multiple times here. I don't think I really have said it before, but it really comes down to that. I don't know if I would have mind seeing it run up and down Buena Vista Drive, or running up and down where Pop Century and Art of Animation is. And the descent into Hollywood Studios, I think, is totally fine too. I like how that view looks.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's really that boardwalk into not that it's not the right place for it to drop you off in terms of crowd control. that decision also makes sense if I had to justify it. Like, yeah, we're only filtering in people from these resorts here. Let's take 4 more resorts and have them go into the back end of Epcot at World Showcase. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
But
all right, we have a few things to address here. Nate, the moment when you think you're going to crash into the car in front of you, but you come to a jerking halt is kind of fun. Is it? Is it, Nate? Okay. Lexi is asking, Dillos, which do you hate more? Animal Kingdom or the Skyliner? Third option, Fantasmic.
I have to rule out Fantasmic because it's personal. I just have a personal / professional problem with Fantasmic. I felt my work life changed forever when Fantasmic and everyone that worked Fantasmic loved Fantasmic. I don't blame them for so it's just how it affected my personal feelings based on that profession. I didn't want to work Fantasmic. I still wanted to work during the day, or I would have tried to work something out. But to me, the entertainment department, as it were, over at the studios kind of changed forever when at that point when Fantasmic was introduced. So it's personal, and that's fine.
Just wait till the Skyliner gets routed to Animal Kingdom. Guess what, Jeffers? I think that would make a lot of sense. And I think
should.
They should do that.
They should have started there. They should have started there before they did Epcot. Yeah. I would have started studios to Animal Kingdom rather than trying to do that to Epcot. I think it would have. I think the people who didn't receive it well, us, would have responded better to it in some ways.
Because for me, I don't hate it. I don't hate anything. I know we rank things. And also, please note, we know we're not rational in our thinking. None of our thinking is like, oh man, this is the worst. We go, oh, Animal Kingdom, it's just the 4th park. Like, it's just because we don't have a nostalgic
It's the 6th park chronologically, if I need to.
So it's just like that nostalgic. It's not rational thinking. So it's not like I don't understand how anyone likes the Animal Kingdom. Yes, I do. I totally get it. And I do like aspects of the Animal Kingdom, but because I have such nostalgic ties to the other 3, I'm going to gravitate towards that. It does also seem very out of the way, which is why I think the Skyliner would have been great to go that way. But I don't hate any of the things. I don't hate the Skyliner. I just prefer the monorail. I am too rooted in my things to accept the new things. And that's the real issue here. It's not rational. It's just what it is. Before we let go of the Skyliner, I want to address Theme Park Rob saying, if there would have been a Skyliner from Polly to Magic Kingdom, would Mama and Papa Dillo have done it?
No.
Here's what I find interesting. They enjoyed what is it called in Magic Kingdom? Why?
The Skyway to Tomorrowland.
Yeah, I keep blanking. Yeah. They enjoyed that. They have no interest in going on the Skyliner right now, and I think they would be very confused to doing that. The Skyliner is not for them at this stage in life. But I don't. If they liked the Magic Kingdom, I think they still would have done the monorail, because if the monorail had been around first, regardless, even if it was by a year, that would have been it. That's what we do, and that's how we go. So I think we would have still stuck to that, but I don't know if they would have been more accepting of it. But again, we were also a rental car family. So we did a lot of times drive around to different places, and we moved to the beach club by the 90s. So there was also that split as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see it. I see the consistency of that. I think if they, I'm trying to think it through too. I'm trying to think of other places they've stayed that they would have used it. I think if they were like staying at like Animal Kingdom Lodge, which they've stayed at before, right? And that was and it was available to them there. I think they would probably try to use it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe they would, if they stayed at Riviera someday, maybe they would find Riviera to Studios to be easy.
Yeah, I think they need to go to Riviera. I mean, that has to be a stop for them. Lexi saying, if you think about it, the Skyliner does link the 2 Dillos parks together. I mean, it's fair. Nate saying that I hate Dole Whip outside of Magic Kingdom and variant non-pineapple Dole Whip. I don't hate it, Nate. I tried the Peter Pan float thanks to Jeffers. It's a delicious treat. It's just not hashtag not my Dole Whip. That's all. Again, it's not rational, Nate. It's not. I don't
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if we missed anything else here.
No, I think that with the Sky, well, and this is originally started with tweet, quote unquote, hate more Skyliner or Animal Kingdom. I think in the end, they are both excellent support for everything else in Walt Disney World.
Yep.
But I wish there's things I wish. And speaking of Animal Kingdom, because the park opened in 1998, there is much, you got Everest is a 21st century structure that we definitely can discuss.
It is?
In the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't there at the get-go. So that's
right.
definitely in play.
No, I remember that being built actually. Now, that's right. In my mid 2000s brain, I do recall that being built every day when I would drive past Animal Kingdom to go home every single day.
Let me ask you a question as a tangent real quick. When you drive by, do you acknowledge verbally out loud? You're not going to remember. It was the mid 2000s. Like, oh, it's really, look how much they did today, or how much, look how that's coming along.
I think I would take note of it, kind of, or what I was seeing, or
Out
how
loud?
much was happening out loud. I don't know. I mean, I was often by myself going back and forth to work. It was just part of
Yeah.
my commute, so I don't know that I did that.
Right. When they built the dome on top of the US Open over here, 10 minutes from our home here in Astoria, Queens, when we would drive to Mom and Papa Dillos, I would verbally acknowledge every time we passed Mrs. Dillo, like, oh, it's really coming along. They do a lot. They're doing a lot. And she's like, what? They haven't done anything since the last time we drove by.
Well, and here are more ways you and the 9-year-old are just because over here on our main road out here, there's a new 7-Eleven being built with a gas station. Before that, and it's not far from the Chick-fil-A that was built a year or two ago.
Yep.
And with both of these things, he has commented every time we pass by. Oh, look. Oh, there's lights on. Oh, look, they put this up. Every time he is seeing what is being done every time.
How is the 9-year-old recovering from the Eagles loss?
Ooh, it's okay. Luckily, no one talked about it at school yesterday, which was a great help because that was a big worry of his. But I mean, we were watching that game, and every time I just could feel that if he was there, how he would be feeling.
Oh,
It's
God.
like I can't. And so as soon as he got up, I was in another room when he asked Mr. Snidillo, and he was like, "The Eagles win? Did they? Did they?" And I was like, "Oh God, it's gonna be bad." So, we're getting through it. We're trying to focus on who he's going to root for now. For who do you want to be in the Super Bowl? But he's already thinking about the draft picks in the spring. So he is starting to think about that. That he
Oh my
wants to
gosh.
watch that now.
Okay. Who will be my
yeah.
new favorite player?
Yeah. But
The two things I looked up prior to, because again, we don't have to stick to Walt Disney World here. I looked up the World of Frozen, the Arendelle structures that that opened in November, and the other one I looked up was Zootopia, which opened in Shanghai Disney in last month. So also, I feel like it's very hard to make arguments for the things that you've never seen in person.
yeah.
So that's a big part of it. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, California Adventure, am I correct that opened up in 2001? Am I correct? So technically, that would be a part of the 21st century, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong? 2001, February 8th, 2001.
The entire park.
The entire park. So anything in there is fair game. And there, Ryan is here to say what I was going to say next, which was Cars Land in 2012. Mrs. Dillo and I have been talking about Disneyland.
Yeah, I saw that. So what have you been talking about? Because we talk about it too.
So we're supposed to fly halfway across the country in April. So I had made a suggestion to kind of go west to come back east for part of Frank's 50th across the board. And so Mrs. Dillo responded positively to that. Always helpful when this is discussed over a couple of beers. And so discuss that, and then discuss possible alternative dates before the summer. And so I was like, ooh, and I was like, I don't need that much time in the park. I
Mhm.
don't need
Mhm.
to be there for 5 days and
Mm.
see everything and do all the things. I need to walk through the main park and ride the Matterhorn,
Mhm.
and I need to see the other park. The other park is secondary to me,
Yeah.
California Adventure. No offense to California Adventure,
Yeah.
but also it came up. I was at at a birthday party, an 8-year-old birthday party on Sunday,
Like you
and
do.
yeah, and one of the parents is going to Disneyland in February, and I think the parents of the birthday recipient had been there in November. Um, there's a little bit of da 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 to that, but those decisions and said, asked because it's funny when people realize I'm a Disney person, much like you, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh yeah, and Mrs. Dill is like, he's got a podcast with the sister, and they're like, you do, and I'm like,
And then you go,
yes. I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. They're like, what about Disneyland? I was like, oh, I never been. And then I feel like I just defeat like the purpose of like, and they were like, what do you recommend? I was like, listen, everyone talks about Cars Land, and I mean, and this is a family with 2 daughters,
mhm.
so I was like, I don't know if they're into cars or not. I was like, but that is the one thing. I was like, if I'm gonna say one thing beyond whatever's gonna be nostalgic to me when I get there is the
Yeah.
original park, I would say Cars Land would be the next thing I would have to see,
Mhm.
and most likely at night, I think, is
Yeah.
how I really feel about it. I don't know if I'll respond as well during the day.
Yeah, when we structure it, we often do, like, one park, one day, like, one day for each park, basically, is when we're like, "We just if we could just do that, that
Yeah.
would be great," and kinda just sandwich it into this, nook. I have also, with Disneyland Paris having these drone things
Oh,
happening,
yeah.
I'm like, "Ah, God, I gotta get places, I gotta
Yeah.
go."
Yeah.
I did see Steffers mention on Twitter, that she booked a Disneyland trip for her birthday. So I'm like,
Huh?
are we all doing it this year? Is this the thing to do this year?
It's a
Is
thing
this
to
gonna be
do,
the year
apparently.
of Disneyland, and then we'll all get together and discuss it, but yeah.
Is it this year or next year? It's next year, that's the big one for Steffers, right? She's got a big one. I
I
think it's next
believe
year.
so,
I
yeah.
believe it's next year.
Mhm.
She would have to confirm that to us at
Yes.
some point. So yeah, so the seeds are planted everywhere right now. But that's something that I have to start looking into a little bit more. In addition to find, and I have said multiple times, Mrs. Dill, I was like, I have to settle on a date for the meetup.
Yeah,
I gotta figure that out.
yeah,
So it's imminent, people.
yeah.
It's imminent. Trust us. So while I bring up one more element, I guess one thing I want to talk about before we go here and wrap things up. Please feel free to drop in the chat. Do you have a structure, a building? It can be anything that you want to definitively say is your favorite structure in the 21st century. So I'm going to bring up New Fantasyland, as they called it
Mhm,
back in the day.
mhm.
Uh, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, I don't think is that structure, but I think we can make a case about whether or not the Be Our Guest restaurant is in the conversation. For me, I love the movie. I love the animation behind it. So what I love in particular about the restaurant, having only been there one time, and that was 7 years ago, is that I love walking into what feels like old Fantasyland. Like if you go before you enter the restaurant, that lobby area when you check in or whatever, it feels very old Fantasyland to me before entering the restaurant. And then the different rooms I think are really spectacular. Uh, I wish their menu was better. I wish it cost a little bit less. But in terms of immersing you, well, as we've like to talk about over the years here and overused on occasion, to immerse you in that way, especially compared to the barbecue place over in Toy Story Land and other similar places over the years. Be Our Guest really makes you feel like you're in it. You're in it.
Yeah, I would agree on that, and I think that's probably why it, like, doesn't get the love it should, if that
Yep.
makes sense. Because
Right.
I think when you're in it, you're like, oh my God, this room is amazing. This restaurant is so cool. And then, like, when you're down here and you're getting the food and you're getting like, it's not meeting, they're not matching. The
Mhm.
experience you're getting food-wise, and not to say the food is bad or anything, but just the experience you're getting there isn't meeting the expectations of the grandness, is
Yeah.
that a word? Of it all. So, like, I think that there's been a little bit of a disconnect there,
Mhm.
where you don't see that much love going to be our guest,
Right.
but the area of it is so cool. And not to say that there's no love, because obviously reservations are hard to get
Right.
typically, and sometimes
Right.
you see one pop up here and there, so it's
Yeah.
not like nobody's going. And I am not here to start a Twitter war of it's a
Right.
big fat failure. No, it's not. But I do think that sometimes people are underwhelmed by what they get there versus where they're sitting.
Yeah, I don't think they're leaving talking about it, or
Hmm.
I think it is what it is, as
Yeah.
they say. I think they're happy with the character meet and greet in there most of the time, and just looking around like we were. But yeah, I don't ever hear about or see anyone leaving there telling everyone else they know that it's a must do, and you
Right.
got to do whatever it takes in that
Yeah.
60-day window to get your reservation, and yada
Yeah.
yada yada.
Yeah. Now, would you extend that, as we talk about Fantasyland, to like the Little Mermaid ride, which the ride itself, is okay, whatever, and it's similar to Nemo and all of that. But like the queue and the outside structure of it, I think that is almost a little bit better than the
Yeah,
ride
I
itself.
don't, and it's probably that I haven't spent enough time
Yeah.
over there. Like, I enough, I guess, but uh it's it's so funny that I really like the queue for the Little Mermaid ride, but I'm like, what a waste of space, because no one is ever in line for this ride.
Hmm.
And so I feel like I have now made my brain kind of see it as like real estate, rather
Uh-huh.
than that's not used well,
Hmm.
rather than thematically exciting,
Yeah.
and especially like with a mountain at your back, and a mountain seemingly in front of
Hmm.
you, a
Hmm.
reef in front, like it just I don't know, I'm more, I know that when I'm in that area, I find myself turning myself towards Gaston's, because that's the
Right.
better view for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, and that's really what that boils down to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the the new Fantasyland overall is just it's interesting what they did, and
I think
moving.
in the grand, what's interesting, because I this is probably the last thing we should talk about, because we haven't really addressed it. It's been in the chat a little bit, but we haven't
Mhm,
said it out loud. Is the compared at the time to when Hogsmeade opened at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter,
mhm,
I don't know if, and we're gonna put it on much like we do with Euro Disneyland happening, in that early '90s time of recession.
mhm,
If you watch the Imagineering story, anything like that, you know what we're talking about. But this is post 2008 until New Fantasyland opening. I think there was a lot of things that didn't get followed through on, or reconsidered, or hey, instead of this, let's try this. I don't think there was a lot of those kind of discussions due to budgeting, if I had to guess. I in the end, I think it's cool. Definitely, and definitely an improvement over what had been sitting there for
yeah,
a very long time.
yeah,
So again, not to completely dispel it, or negate it, or
mhm,
complain about it. None of that,
yeah,
but more in the um, because you can make the argument too of like, well, you didn't want to overdo it, because then it would make it blends really well into the rest of Fantasyland,
yeah,
which is really what I think it was the point, and probably the argument to be made. If there was anything like, well, is it this? Is it that? It's like the blend, the way it blends into the rest of Fantasyland, especially if you're
mhm,
walking from Tomorrowland, I think is really well done.
Yeah, yeah. True. Agreed.
Nobody's put their favorite in there. Everyone's afraid to commit because they've been with Jen over the years, and
Yeah.
they're like-minded individuals. But
Yes.
I think Gaston's. I really wish. Yeah, Lewis is mentioning with Gaston's used to be awesome snack land with the pork shank. That's the one I want to be there a little bit more. I've tried the cinnamon
Mhm.
bun there and probably a late breakfast or something like that back in the day. But I think that's the biggest. Oh, Lexi comes in last minute with the curveball, the wild card, and this is a great argument as well, where she drops the Star Cruiser, the Halcyon, as the greatest structure created. And if really we're talking about interiors,
Mhm.
I mean, I think this is definitely it would be hard to argue into speaking of immersive experiences and really capturing you in what everything is. That's a great one that didn't even cross my mind
Mhm.
in this conversation.
Yeah, Ryan agreeing there. Yeah, I mean, because to think of these great structures, and to your point with the immersiveness, like, it's always about the details,
Hmm.
and from what we heard, with the Star Cruiser, the details not only in the structure itself, in the interior itself, at the bar, with the drinks, it's it's all of it. It was the crew members. What am I working on an airline? It was
Yeah, fair enough.
but maybe that they were on a ship, right? So it could have been.
the,
Um,
the cast
but
members.
yeah, the cast members and the food and the drinks and the like, everything seemed on point. The story behind everything, the details involved, and what they did to make the guests feel like this is life right now
Hmm.
sounded amazing. And, having that discussion with Ryan and Lexi and Adam, is just I don't think I really had FOMO for it until that discussion. Of course, when it
Right.
was going away, I'm like, "Oh, man, yeah, this sounds amazing," and really, it sounds like true Disney and why we love Disney, and the heart that goes into so much that we have loved over the years. That sounded like that's where all the energy went.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
disappointing we didn't get to experience that, but
Yeah, Lewis debating it with the inside, the interior and exterior. I think if we're talking fully across the board,
mhm, mhm,
there. To bring it back to before I bring it back to Wizarding World really fast, the Velocicoaster. I think you can make
mm,
an argument of how it was built to accentuate your experience on the ride. I
mhm.
think is a part of that conversation. I saw it was. I'm surprised I get them sometimes, but scrolling through TikTok, a ride view of Velocicoaster came up yesterday. I was like, God, I hope I can go on this again. I don't know.
Mm,
It's like
mhm.
it really threw me for a loop the first time. I was like, I'm gonna have to better prepare myself in the future. But
I don't
I
have
definitely
those
want
thoughts.
to. I definitely want to go on it at night.
Uh-huh.
I think that would be if I had to do it one more time, it would have to be in the evening. Um, the Lewis talking about the Wizarding World is that the dragon doesn't move while it does
Mm,
breathe fire every 20
mhm,
minutes. There is a part of that. This will probably go to a new place for me at some point because in addition to Disneyland, I gotta try to figure out a Wizarding World trip in
mm,
here
mhm.
because 7-year-old A is in the final stages of the final book
Yeah.
of the Harry Potter series. We're just getting all of Snape's backstory. That's how we're that's how close we are to finishing the whole series. I know everyone has feelings, and I don't disagree with how people feel. But the world that is in her brain about
Mhm,
these books is phenomenal. So I feel like uh, I already think it's amazing. I think the Hogwarts Castle is just an amazing piece. Just to look at is you can't believe you're looking at it in person,
mhm.
uh, and I can only imagine that the details that I know about now and that she knows about and will point out inevitably will only enhance my feelings about those designs and those structures
Oh, yeah.
and the whole piece.
Mhm.
Uh, if not this year, hopefully this year at some point. I have a lot to do apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, I put together a little digital vision board for this year. I'm like, you know what? It's time. It's
Mm,
time to do a vision board because I have too many things and too many places I want to go. So we're gonna put that on a vision board and start manifesting.
yeah. Jeffers dropping all the questions like, could Find Frank for 50 meetup be this? Could Find Frank for meetup be?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Listen, I also try to, yeah, that's why I said Orlando Informa. That is in my brain, Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that it's not. I should create a budget as well, and what can and cannot be done
Yeah.
during that time. So,
Yeah.
I think in both cases, Disneyland and Wizarding World, I would need to experience. Well, not Wizarding World, for Disneyland. I think I want to experience Disneyland with the kid the first time.
That's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah,
I love you all, but
yeah,
I kind of want to do it family and then I'm happy to experience it with others. But
yeah,
that first time, I think I kind of want to
yeah.
keep it at
So that is definitely that's on the list. Yeah. So and that's really what it's going to come down to. This meetup is going to come down to two things. I think it's going to come down to whether September is more convenient work wise for me,
Mhm.
or whether I'm going to push the budgetary element with Jollywood and a very Merry Christmas party and do it early December. I think that's what those things really come down to at this point. I don't think early November is currently an option. So
Mhm.
we will, especially because of Lewis's schedule. That's really what's preventing all of this right now.
Yeah.
But that will do it here on a Theme Park Thursday. As we wrap it up, make sure to check it out. If you're watching this on a replay in the live stream, make sure to check out all our things at dillosdiz.com. We're on all the social medias. We have dillosdizresort.com. That's our Patreon. Memberships beginning as low as $1 per month. dillosdizresort.com. Jen, is there anything that needs to be added here before we officially wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think we got it.
Yes. Watch me race that. I didn't tell my
Yeah.
Subway story from yesterday. I don't think it's appropriate to tell my
Yeah.
Subway story from
All right.
yesterday.
Yeah.
That's a tease for the resort at some point, which I can't get to today because we had to pivot on the schedule. Until next time, she's Jen. I'm Frank. Bye-bye.
Deuces.